I don't know if you've intended it, but your shows this week for the last few days have been a remarkable lesson for anybody who's a homeowner who's planning to renovate anything on what not to do. I mean, like just the basic lessons about, hey, talk to two contractors.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like everybody should have a bid contract. Like never just, I mean, if you've used the same guy for a long time, that's fine. But the same guy might have been doing your particular pool, but now you're doing the actual reflecting pool of the United States of America. May not be the same job for the same guy.
Make it an actual reflecting pool. And if it's $1.8 billion, have a process for it. And I don't know what kind of pool you have at your home, but still.
All of the above. Thank you for some great shows. You have a great weekend. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, Allie. Thank you. You too.
Donald Trump is back in the United States, and of course, his China summit was a great success. But while Trump walked away with a flattering reception, a nice dinner, and not much else, China walked away with something far more consequential, an uncertainty that they sought about the United States' position on Taiwan. Yesterday, the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, sat down for an interview with NBC News where he stated clearly that the U.S. policy on Taiwan had not changed.
U.S. policy on the issue of Taiwan is unchanged as of today and as of the meeting that we had here today. It was raised. They always raise it on their side. We always make clear our position, and we move on to the other topics. We know where they stand, and I think they know where we stand.
We know where they stand, and I think they know where we stand. End quote. Today, Donald Trump got on Air Force One and introduced something very different.
The 1982 assurances that President Reagan gave said the United States would not consult with China on arms sales to Taiwan. So it sounds to me like you have consulted with China.
I think 1982 is a long way.
It was?
That's a big far distance.
You dispensed with that?
No, I didn't say anything about it. We discussed the Taiwan, the whole thing with the arms sales. It was in great detail, actually.
In great detail. That was Trump saying, I didn't say anything about Taiwan, only to say mere seconds later, we discussed Taiwan in great detail. Maybe Trump forgot. Maybe Trump misspoke. Maybe Trump was lying. But China absolutely knows where it stands on Taiwan. There's no confusion in Beijing. Taiwan, which China considers a breakaway province, is China's #1 strategic priority, and it has been for decades. That was arguably China's #1 wish list item coming out of the summit, creating uncertainty in America's commitment to Taiwan. And Trump gave it to them in exchange for nothing. Trump got rolled by an authoritarian targeting a Democratic ally of the United States again. It used to be that when the United States government spoke, everybody listened, allies, markets, adversaries. Now Trump has rendered not only the words of an American president meaningless, but also the words of his Secretary of State, his administration, and everyone. Because Trump thinks power is performance, he tried to show that he was tough, not by standing up to China or winning on Iran, but by attacking New York Times reporter David Sanger, who asked a question about Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu's war of choice in Iran.
I had a total military victory, but the fake news, guys like you, write incorrectly. I actually think it's sort of treasonous what you write. You should be ashamed of
This
yourself.
is another war. Is there any
I actually think it's treason.
Wow. Trump thinks he looks strong, lobbing a big tough word like treason at a reporter whom he knows will not argue with him, but will continue to pursue his questioning in a professional manner. Like professional wrestling, it's all fake. Total military victory in Iran? It's day 76, and Iran is still using its brand new weapon, the Strait of Hormuz, against us. And Trump has no idea what to do about that. What exactly did Trump bring home from his two-day summit with the Chinese president? No commitment from China to help open the Strait of Hormuz, no breakthrough on Iran. He did get an agreement for China to buy American planes. The New York Times reports, quote, Boeing landed an order for 200 aircraft, a deal that Trump highlighted in a Fox News interview last night, but shares in the plane maker fell sharply in pre-market trading on Friday because the number was short of analysts' forecasts of at least 300 planes. The Atlantic reports, quote, a couple of trade deals have apparently made Trump happy enough to step aside and let Xi pursue his global agenda. Like the Chinese emperors of old, Xi has used the lure of Chinese wealth to reinforce China's power. This is how a president who has long insisted on American strength and a tough line on China consigns the country to a weaker future. End quote. We've seen this pattern before. Remember the Trump-Putin summit in Alaska last summer? Trump literally rolled out the red carpet. Massive spectacle, personal flattery, all the TV news cameras were there, and afterward, nothing changed. Trump was not able to deliver half a year late on his promise to end Putin's war on Ukraine on day one, as he promised during the election. Putin's war on Ukraine continues, by the way, as Russia attacks civilians, including infants and children, and devastates infrastructure. Today, at least 24 people were killed in Kyiv, including 2 children. According to Kyiv's mayor, dozens of others were wounded, including a 1-month-old baby. But just last week, Donald Trump claimed progress, writing that talks between Ukraine and Russia were, quote, continuing on ending this major conflict. We are getting closer and closer every day, end quote. Closer and closer every day to the war that he was going to end on day one, to the war that wouldn't have happened had he been president, apparently. Trump, the reality TV guy, wants to win attention in the moment. It's always about the moment, which is why he declares victory every day of this war, now in its 76th day. China isn't bothering to win the moment. China's playing to win the future. The Wall Street Journal reports, quote, for Trump, it's all about opening China's market to American business and reciprocal trade, reviving a U.S. policy that he scrapped in his first presidency. Chinese leader Xi Jinping, meanwhile, wants strategic stability, a predictable relationship in which Washington doesn't impede Beijing's economic and geopolitical rise. Trump is trying to manage the chaos he created. China is trying to shape the 21st century and is doing it with relentless discipline. The Wall Street Journal continues, quote, the U.S. could ban every Chinese-made product, but those products would keep gaining market share abroad, threatening American leadership. This calls for a joint response by all market-based democracies to Chinese industrial policy. But U.S. allies' willingness to coordinate with the United States on China, which was never high to start with, has eroded further under Trump. China is not just competing in markets, it is shaping markets. Meanwhile, the United States is alienating the allies that it would need to compete effectively with China. America's greatest superpower has never simply been its military force, yet the United States spends more on defense than the next 44 countries combined. America's true superpower was its alliances. NATO, NORAD, Five Eyes, the Pacific Alliances, economic coalitions, the fact that allies believed America meant what it said and would live up to its commitments. Trump has spent years weakening those structures by attacking allies, creating uncertainty, hollowing out trust, and as a result, the world's most powerful country increasingly behaves like the world's smallest superpower. And once again, an authoritarian leader walked away with exactly what he wanted, while Trump came home declaring victory. Time magazine describes Trump as cowed in China. The most enduring image from the entire visit is the 2 leaders standing outside the Ming Dynasty Temple of Heaven, with Trump remaining curiously tight-lipped as reporters inquired whether they had discussed Taiwan. China is beautiful, Trump offered instead. But the optics of the U.S. president, for whom belligerence has long been a badge of honor, appearing awkward and cowed, is a stark illustration of the shifting balance of global power. So I've got a new acronym tonight. TGRET. Trump gets rolled every time. This week was China's turn to roll him. Leading off our discussion tonight is Chrystia Freeland, who previously served as the Deputy Prime Minister of Canada and the Minister of Finance of Canada. She is also a longtime journalist. Chrystia, welcome back to the show. Thank you for being with us tonight.
Great to be with you, Ellie.
You've been at these tables. You've been at these summits. You've been at these meetings. You understand the importance of it. I think this was probably supposed to be the most important summit of Donald Trump's entire tenure. Give us your take on what happened.
I think an acronym you could use to summarize not just this meeting, but everything leading up to it is Make China Great Again. When you look at the impact of the Trump presidency, the real winner has been China, and the loser has been America's allies and America itself. And what's really extraordinary about it, Allie, is President Trump was elected beginning in 2016 in large part because he was really one of the first US leaders who recognized the way that China's entry to the WTO was contributing to the hollowing out of the US middle class. One of his promises to American Rust Belt workers was he was going to fix it. But instead, what we see he's doing is bullying reporters, beating up on America's closest friends and allies, and frankly, seeming cowed by China.
Tell me about the Taiwan thing. How big a deal is it? There's two. The one is a practical issue, and that is that the U.S. has maintained a very heavy naval presence and military presence in Asia. You know, for a lot of reasons, but also in part because we have an agreement that if China were to invade Taiwan, the United States has some nuanced commitment to defend Taiwan. But the military is not there right now. They're in the Middle East.
That is 100% the case, and China knows it. China knows that with every day of the Trump presidency, the U.S. is getting weaker. The U.S. is distracted by a war of choice, which is tying up the U.S. military, which is raising prices at home and weakening the president because of that, which has divided the United States from its allies. And you know what, to me, is really concerning about the president's reticence on Taiwan is I think that kind of ambiguity, that perception that surely Beijing has right now, that they can manipulate President Trump, I think it makes the world a more dangerous place. Because if you are in Beijing right now, you're thinking, this is a guy we can manipulate. And you may be thinking, that means it would be smart for us to do something before 2028. And that would be terrible for Taiwan and terrible for the world.
So that's interesting. Before 2028. So that brings me to my next question. Donald Trump has broken a lot of major organizations or weakened organizations. Some of them are American organizations. Some of them are things like NATO. When there's a different president who doesn't do that, who doesn't want to break alliances and break international organizations, can America get right back to the table? Can they pull up their chair and say, we're back and things are going back to the way they used to be? Or have our allies, including Canada, decided that the future has to look different?
You know, Ali, I really hope that America can mend its relationship with its allies. And I hope that because I think all of us, the world's democracies, will be a lot stronger if the U.S. is on team democracy. And I also think, you know, Canadians, Europeans, we know America is bigger than one man, even if that one man is the president. And by the way, we like America. We admire America and Americans. So I like to think there is a way back, but it's getting harder and harder every day.
Help me understand how this goes, because obviously a country like Canada and other European countries, they do have to trade with China. We all trade with China. We trade a lot with China. But as a result of the difficulties with America since the second Trump presidency, Canada, for instance, has increased its level of trade and its intent to do more with China. And that makes some Canadians uncomfortable. It makes Americans uncomfortable. But it's a fact of life that if you want to confront China, you've got to have a sort of an allied approach to this thing. If you don't, countries are going to start going it alone.
Ali, you are 100% correct. And, you know, the irony of the situation is America actually needs its allies today more than it has ever done. These alliances were established after the Second World War when America was at its peak power. And that is when America was supporting its allies, was seeking to build this web of friendship. Today, America's relative economic weight in the world is declining, and the behavior is absolutely perverse. Now is a time when America needs its friends. And what America is actually doing, rather than rallying a coalition of friends to support America, including in, I would say, ensuring that China plays by the rules the rest of us play by, whether those are rules of territorial integrity or rules of trade. America could be rallying the free world to do that, but instead America is pushing its friends into the arms of China. It's really hard for me to understand why that is in the interests of the United States and of Americans.
Christian, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to continue the conversation on the other side. You are one of a number of people who are persona non grata in Russia as a result of your support for Ukraine and your own background, your Ukrainian heritage. I want to talk to you about the uptick in violence that Russia has imposed on Ukraine this week and talk about the future of American democracy. We're going to take a quick break. We'll talk on the other side. Here's a statement that would have been unthinkable at any time from the end of World War II until Donald Trump. The German Chancellor, Friedrich Merz, said today, quote, "I am a great admirer of America. My admiration isn't growing at the moment, so I wouldn't recommend to my children today that they go to the U.S., get an education there, and work there, simply because of a social climate that has suddenly developed there," end quote. Just last month, Chancellor Merz says Donald Trump was being humiliated by Iran in negotiations about an end to Trump's war. Germany, of course, unconditionally surrendered to the United States, ending World War II, and it was America that showed an act of mercy and remarkable economic prowess in the Marshall Plan to help the country that waged war on democracy to rebuild. Germany was where an American president stood at the Brandenburg Gate in Berlin in 1963 when the German people were being split in half by communism and said, "I am a Berliner." And in 1987, when an American president shouted, "Tear down this wall," and not that long afterward, they did. And where in 2008, 200,000 people flooded the streets to see the future president, Barack Obama, speak about freedom and partnership. And now we have come to this. The German chancellor warns his kids away from looking to America. Chrystia Freeland, the former Deputy Prime Minister of Canada, is back with us. Chrystia, between two fellow Canadians, this is so weird, right? Because we both grew up with America as our biggest neighbor and most important partner, a country to which we looked to, we vacationed in. You and I both worked parts of our careers in the United States. It's so strange to have a break with one of your closest allies.
It's strange and it's dangerous. It's dangerous for Merz because Merz is probably the most pro-American leader in Europe. He used to work for BlackRock. He is a conservative. He was the head of an organization called Atlantische Brücke, which means Atlantic Bridge, the bridge between Germany and North America. In 2018, he actually, as head of that organization, gave me an award for furthering transatlantic relations because Canada did a trade deal with Europe. So he has devoted so much of his life to building that transatlantic relationship. It's one of the main things he stands for. And to have him say, "I don't think America is a place for my kids anymore," that is huge.
Let's talk a little about, a lot of people don't know this, but Canada is home to the largest diaspora of Ukrainians for a lot of very interesting reasons that go back to the 1930s. You're one of them. You are a member of that diaspora. You have fought for freedom and democracy in Ukraine for a long time, and for that you have you're not welcome in Russia. Russia has upped its attacks on Ukraine this week. There have been some brutal attacks over the last few days, thousands of drones and missiles. Where are we in this war?
Well, Ali, this has been a pretty grim time, and you've talked about some worrying things so far in your show. So I'm going to offer a little bit of good news. Against all odds and contradicting the predictions of experts from the very beginning, experts said that Kyiv was going to fall in 3 weeks. Ukraine is actually holding Russia to a stalemate. It may even be winning. And it is doing that because the Ukrainians have they are now capable of striking 1,500 kilometers into Russia. And they call these missile attacks our own sanction program. Because with those Ukrainian deep strike attacks, Ukraine has either damaged or destroyed up to 40% of Russia's oil refining capacity. That is an example to me of democracy working. And I think that we should all be really inspired by what Ukraine is doing. And we should recognize that Ukraine, it's not just a charity case. Ukraine is a powerful ally that can help defend Europe, and indeed is today defending Europe.
Christian, can I ask you, day 76, I think it is, of this war in Iran? Wars tend to get unpopular over time. Rarely do they start this unpopular. It is quite likely this is an illegal war because in the first 60 days, the president needed to ask Congress. Congress does not apparently care that the president didn't ask, so it's not been granted. The president doesn't have war powers. Sometimes he calls it a war, sometimes he doesn't call it a war. But something is happening in Iran that feels like a war, and the Strait of Hormuz is closed. What's your sense of how this ends?
Well, I'll tell you what is happening right now, which is this is pummeling regular Americans. Gas prices are high and they're going to get higher. This is hitting food prices. Something that not a lot of people talk about is that fertilizer is really being hit, and that is going to increase the price of food around the world. It is hitting aluminum. If you are a person who likes a beer or likes a can of pop, that is going to be getting more expensive because of this war.
Is there a way out of this? I mean, it doesn't seem obvious. Donald Trump keeps claiming victory, which creates a problem because it doesn't actually get us to victory, or even a ceasefire or a peace deal.
Well, you know what is really perverse, Ali, is this war may actually end up leaving Iran and the Ayatollahs, who are terrible, who massacred their own people in the weeks before this war. They may end up in a stronger position than before the war began. It is entirely possible that Iran and its nuclear program will be stronger after this war than they were before. And as you have pointed out, Iran has discovered a whole new weapon, and that is control over the Straits of Hormuz.
Which remain closed. I wonder whether when Donald Trump declares victory there, it'll be because these straits, which were not. There has never been, in the history of America, a president who used the office to enrich himself, his family, and his pals as much as or as blatantly as Donald Trump has. Whether it's holding the G20 at his own golf club in Florida, or hawking Elon Musk's cars on the White House lawn, or selling Trump-branded Bibles made in China, which were exempt from Trump tariffs, it's never been clear where the line is between the national interest of the United States and the interest of the person currently occupying the Oval Office. Here's another one. Donald Trump went to China for a summit with the president of China, America's foremost geopolitical rival, and traveling alongside the president was his son, Eric Trump, the executive who leads the Trump family business. The New York Times reports the company, known as the Trump Organization, has flirted with Chinese business deals over the years, raising the question of whether his presence could blur the lines between government business, and private enterprise. Now, Eric Trump posted today, "I have zero business interests in China. No properties, no investments, nothing. I joined this trip